Welcome to this Sunday night edition of Nightcast. It is the first day of November 2015. Our opening story, we go to Russia, where a Russian airliner has crashed in central Sinai with more than 200 people on board. The BBC's Sarah Rainford has this opening story.
224 people on board, 17 children, we understand. And we understand that the vast majority of them were, if not all of them, Russian tourists. Sharm el-Sheikh is an extremely popular winter sun resort for people here in Russia. This was a flight to St. Petersburg, Russia's second city. And so, as I say, it's thought that the vast majority were tourists on board the plane. President Putin has ordered an official investigation to begin immediately. Russian prosecutors are said to be preparing to fly to Egypt to take part or to contribute to that investigation to find out exactly what happened on board. There were very confusing and conflicting reports this morning as news started to come in that the plane had disappeared from radar screens, that contact had been lost with the crew. Initially, there was a report that the crew had made contact then with Turkish air authorities. Then that was, of course, disproved. And in fact, the Russian civil aviation authorities here are saying that the plane lost contact some 23 minutes after taking off from Sharm el-Sheikh, and that no contact with the crew was then re-established. So big questions over what happened. But at the moment, as I say, condolences from President Putin. Relatives, of course, in St. Petersburg Airport, Pulkovo Airport, where the plane should have landed an hour ago. And of course, that didn't happen.
And of course, Sarah Rainsford was talking about an hour ago yesterday. Her report was from yesterday, Saturday's news. The Airbus A321 had just left the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, bound for the Russian city of St. Petersburg. And for some reason, our video player is not switching over to the next story. Let me just tell you some more details on this. We'll try it again in a moment. The plane was found in the Hosanna area. Egyptian officials said all the passengers were Russian. And our next story, if I can get this video player to working, friends, will report how Russia is observing a day of mourning after this Russian airliner. Oh, she's hung up. Let's see. What can I do to... Okay, I think maybe we unfroze it. Let's... I'm going to have to reload our media player, so let me put a slide up as I talk to you. I'll just put our Nightcast slide up. And let's just reload the stories for tonight. And, you know, while it'll take me just a half a minute, so let's go over here and put something one of our friends in Kansas loves to see up on the screen, our slide of how we determine which stories we play. We primarily relate to you the stories that relate to the first four seals from the book of Revelation. On this slide, you're seeing the first five. And the first four being active, and one of the things we're very, very, very much watching for is when these first four increase such that it relates to what Jesus Christ told us. In analogy would be the situation. He said, when you see the limbs of a tree, the branches of a tree become tender, and then you see the little buds on the trees start to spring forth, you know that summer is nigh. And then he said, likewise, by comparison, when you see these first four seals become extremely active, then you know that summer. Well, he said by comparison, I'm sorry, I'm repeating what he said about the branches becoming tender and the little buds beginning to spring. He said, likewise, when you see those first four seals that you see in the middle of the chart become increasingly active and intensified, then you know that the kingdom of God is near. And before the kingdom of God comes, that fifth seal that you see in the far right when that slide is full screen. The far right slide where you see the number 5 and the wording Great Tribulation, and which is what Jesus Christ called the fifth seal in plain language in Matthew 24, right around verses 20-21. Calling this time of great tribulation a time of trouble so great that nothing since the beginning of the world has been as bad as what's coming in this fifth seal. No, nor ever after. So nothing after this great tribulation will ever be as bad either. But he says you can't escape it by watching news that relates to these first 4 seals becoming more intensified, more increasing in frequency and intensity. And so that's what we help you do on this program, friends. Now, we got our player. We have our player back up, so I can show you this next story where Russia is observing a day of mourning after the Russian airliner crashed in the Sinai desert on Saturday. Today's Sunday, that was yesterday, killing all 224 people on board, as you heard Sarah Rainsford explain. In Egypt, the search for debris and bodies has been widened as investigators confirm they will begin examining the recovered flight recorders. They did find the black box. They will begin examining that black box, the recovered flight recorders, within hours. Again, we have Sarah Rainsford reporting now from Moscow.
They've
been reading out the names of the dead today in St. Petersburg, one by one. But this list includes whole families. All of Russia is in mourning now for 224 people killed flying back from a holiday in the sun.
It's a huge tragedy, a great sorrow. For many people, the loss hasn't sunk in yet. They feel like their relatives are still near them, that they will still come home.
But this was the last ever photograph of Yuri Shane and little Anastasia. It was posted online by his wife as the family boarded the flight. And this is Darina Gromova, just 10 months old, on her first ever foreign holiday. The wreckage of their plane is scattered across the Egyptian desert. Russian officials now believe it broke into pieces in mid-air. There was no chance of surviving this. Militants linked to Islamic State claim they downed the flight, but there's been no proof of that. Crucially, the flight data recorders have now been found. All day, relatives have been gathering at a hotel here, seeking information, perhaps some comfort. Nadezhda's brother was on the flight. She told me she was trying to call him when she heard about the crash on the news. Anatoly was 32.
They've told us to wait. Perhaps the first bodies will be flown back tonight. Perhaps tomorrow we can identify them. So we're waiting. We've already given samples of DNA.
How are you coping, I ask. We're holding up, she says. We have to. And tonight, outside the arrivals hall of the city airport, there is a constant stream of mourners.
The kinds of things people have been leaving here, all the stuffed toys and the teddy bears, are a reminder that 25 of those killed were children. And as this memorial to all of the dead has grown, so too has the demand for answers. People now want to know exactly why Flight 9268 didn't land here safely. Sarah Rainsford, BBC News, St. Petersburg.
Thank you again, Sarah. And friends, Russian President Putin has said after ISIS announced that they shot the plane down, hasn't been proven yet. Nonetheless, Russian President Putin said today he is going to step on the tail of ISIS. Now, what he means exactly by that remains yet to be seen, but he's going to step on their tail, President Putin said. Turkey's ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, has won a critical parliamentary election. regaining the majority it lost in June. Gavin Hewitt has a report on that.
In Ankara, supporters of the ruling party took to the streets claiming an unexpected victory. The leaders of the moderate Islamist party had gambled that by holding a snap election they could win and form a government on their own. They succeeded and celebrated boldly. The victory was won in the face of warnings that the government is increasingly authoritarian. The Turkish nation has sent a message to all the world, said this man. We're standing firm. The result, however, may sharpen social divisions. The election has strengthened President Erdogan's grip on power. When he voted earlier today, a small crowd cheered and chanted, "This nation is with you." His officials handed boxes of toy cars to the children of voters. His opponents accuse him of trampling on human rights and reducing press freedom. The voters went to the polling stations against a background of troubled times. Suicide bombings apparently carried out by the Islamic State. Violence in the Kurdish areas, a slowing economy, concerns about Turkish democracy.
The main issue is the human rights, I suppose.
For me, the priority is security, but the stability of the country is important as well.
The ruling party, tonight full of confidence, may yet struggle to unite this country. At a time of increasing violence in Turkey, it seems that many voters chose a party which they believed would deliver stability. Indeed, the president and the party he founded had a very simple message. It's us or chaos. This result will be watched closely by Europe's leaders. They need Turkey's help in slowing the numbers of refugees. However uneasy they may feel at the prospect of a more powerful President Erdogan, they may believe it'll be easier to strike a deal on refugees with a stronger single-party government. Gavin Hewitt, BBC News, Ankara.
All right, friends, and obviously, and as he said, Gavin Hewitt was reporting there from Ankara. The death toll off the Greek island of Lesbos is likely to rise in the coming days unless urgent action is taken, according to an official leading rescue efforts there. The warning comes after the Greek Coast Guard said the bodies of another 13 people, 6 of them children, had been recovered. More than 430 people drowned trying to cross from Turkey to Greece in October. Alex Forsyth reports.
The wind was strong on Lesbos today, and the rough seas brought with them bodies. At least 8 were found this morning, adults and children who drowned trying to cross from Turkey. This local driver helped pull 2 out of the water. How should I feel, he asked, when I see drowned people? We have a big problem here, he said. We live with this every day. Despite the bad weather, the boats kept coming. Their occupants helped ashore by volunteers. Some were overwhelmed. Others were shocked, soaked and shivering.
This constant flow of people might have slowed in the last 24 hours as the winds have picked up, but this just shows that women, children and men are prepared to risk their lives, whatever the weather.
A search was launched for 3 people said to have fallen overboard on the way, but volunteer rescue services returned alone. Then a second boat arrived with people who'd paid to reach Europe from Iraq, Afghanistan and Syria. The UN says smugglers are offering discounts to those willing to travel when the waves are high. How was the boat?
Oh, it was too dangerous. Very dangerous. We come in first 10 minutes, everything was all right. After 10 minutes, we give themselves to God.
They say they seek a better life, but Europe is struggling to cope. And while a solution is desperately sought, winter approaches and the boats keep coming. Alex Forsyth, BBC News, Lesbos.
All right, thank you, Alex. And let's see, our buttons are hanging up here on our camera shots. There we go. That's it tonight for this Sunday night report, friends, here on this Sunday night edition of Nightcast. I'm keeping it short tonight because I got a message or contact from our programmer in China who's working on a new piece of software for us for displaying our videos, that he's got a certain stage of that new software ready for me to look at, and I'm eager to look at it. It'll help me, if he's done what he was supposed to do, it'll help me in the beginning of the program be able to show you a whole bank of all the video clips we'll be showing you for the evening, and I can comment where we're going at the start of a show, and you'll know what's coming up in the program that way, and we'll be able to zoom from those little clips. We'll be able to zoom them forward on the screen. I'm very eager to see that, so I'm signing off. I'm going to get with him for the next couple of hours, and he needs my help as he finishes off that stage and then goes into another stage of some more things that software will do, and then hopefully by tomorrow night we'll have our intro fixed so that we can open up as we normally do with the intro that some of you get angry about with me when I said, hey, I think I'm going to change the opening music. Some of you said, you better not. And they had, and these were elderly senior women among us, had, God says, don't upset the elder women. He warns us, don't let them cry out to me. So believe you me, I listen to the elder women when they give me suggestions that I think are good about how we should run this program of news related to the Bible and prophecy in fulfillment of what Mr. Armstrong, the end-time apostle Herbert, told us to be watching for these latter days, and in fulfillment of what Jesus Christ told us to do in Luke 21:36, to watch and pray. And that's something Mr. Armstrong was very much adamant, enthusiastic about encouraging us to do, those words of Jesus Christ. And so and with it becoming as urgent as it is, and things coming to where those four seals are intensifying, becoming much more active, with, as I said, with greater intensity, and that's the sign Jesus Christ gave us that summer is nigh in comparison. The kingdom of God is just down the street. A great tribulation for 2.5 years will occur first, and some who are accounted worthy, the promise Christ puts at the end of Luke 21 verse 36 for doing what he says at the beginning of that verse is that you can be accounted worthy to escape these next things to happen. The next thing to happen, the fifth seal, as Mr. Armstrong before he died said. That's the next major event to be happening in prophecy. Hasn't happened, hasn't come yet. It'll be the time of the greatest trouble upon the world since the beginning of the world, and you can escape it. All right, that's all I'm going to say for tonight. Thank you for joining me, dear friends. God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll be back again tomorrow night, Monday night, with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long and good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.